Xbox. This channel is primarily to talk about, Nintendo stuff, and I've talked about other stuff as well, but let's go into the sad decline of Xbox and Microsoft, because, man, these guys really are a modern Sega. So, Microsoft and Xbox, they're not doing very well right now. They're, no games. All their games are being ported to PlayStation or Switch, even some of them. Yeah, they really aren't doing well. Yeah, today I just kind of want to talk about Xbox and how they've just kind of fallen off. They fell so far. So Xbox originally, they first came out somewhere in the early 2000s, and the first Xbox was competing with the GameCube and the PS2. Now the GameCube with Nintendo, they were struggling at this point, and after the N64, well, yeah, Nintendo was still trying to compete for power for some reason, instead of casual audiences, which they ended up doing with the Wii later, but yeah, the GameCube didn't sell very well. And Sony had absolutely smashed Nintendo in this generation. With the PS1 in the previous generation against the N64, they sold 100 million units and outsold Nintendo by almost 3 times the amount, and, well, this generation, they just destroyed Nintendo. It wasn't even a competition. And later on, Microsoft decided, hey, what if we made a console? So Microsoft at this point was just known as the computer company, and to this day they're still mostly known as that computer company. And Microsoft, as the computer company, didn't really have any experience in making consoles. However, they decided to throw their hat in the ring, and they made the original Xbox. Now, the original Xbox sold not very well. It didn't sell amazingly. However, the proof of concept for it was there, and it did build a lot of hype for itself. With Halo being shown on the Xbox, it was a very popular console despite the fact that it didn't sell very well. The proof of concept was, well, there for the Xbox. And so Microsoft decided, hey, let's just try again, and we'll throw our hat in the ring. Now, for the original Xbox, Microsoft didn't really have a lot of time to make it because, well, they joined the generation late. However, with this new Xbox they'd be making, well, they're not joining late. They're actually joining rather early compared to the other competition. So, they decided, hey, we might as well try, and we'll try a little bit harder. And they ended up making the Xbox 360. Now, just to clear this up, because this is a really common misconception that even I fall into, the Xbox 360 did not win its generation. If we're comparing the Xbox 360 to the PS3, PS3 actually did sell more units, and that's because, well, Microsoft got very complacent with the 360 in its later years, and, well, Sony actually fixed up the PS3. Well, technically Nintendo won the generation because they sold more than the other two, but still. But the 360, at the very least, is the most well-known and loved console in the generation, apart from pretty much the Wii, but Nintendo was really doing their own thing there. In terms of the consoles that were competing for power and competing for their own games and didn't really compete as much for exclusives, well, Xbox was absolutely winning, and keep in mind, they were the new kid on the block at this time. Xbox wasn't an old veteran in the console market like Nintendo was, nor did they have a couple generations of experience already like Sony. They were brand new, so they weren't 100% sure what they were doing, but they did really well with the 360. One of the main reasons the 360 sold as well as it did was because, well, Sony, yeah, they really screwed up the PS3. Sony with the PS3 made it really powerful, but no games really took advantage of that power. Additionally, it was really overpriced, and it also didn't really have many exclusives. Which, funnily enough, are all the exact same things we're doing with the PS5 right now. I digress, however. Microsoft, they were doing pretty well, and that's mainly because Sony, well, they weren't. They were specifically just kind of completely ruining their console and the chances of it selling well, at the very least in the beginning. Primarily because, well, Sony got complacent. They won the previous generation and then the generation before that against, well, Nintendo, who was the king of consoles at the time. And so Sony pretty much thought they were untouchable, and, well, they weren't. And in the next generation, Microsoft, yeah, this is where the fall began. So Microsoft would release the Xbox 360 and... oh god. Oh god, was it bad. Now, it's not as bad as what Nintendo was doing at this time, however, it wasn't good. Microsoft made it so that if you wanted to play any games, even offline games, your Xbox would have to be connected to the internet. Yeah, and one of their big advertising things was that if you don't like how the Xbox One is, buy the 360 instead.
It's a great line for games.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think people are going to love it, and then they're going to understand what we're trying to create and how it links games and entertainment, the functionality of the box. And I think people could have arguably gone the other way if we didn't do it. And fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right.
Yeah, so Sony absolutely won this generation. Yeah, I don't even know what Xbox was trying to do about this. I don't even know what they were thinking, what Microsoft was even attempting to do with this. And even if they thought this was going to work, I don't know. It makes no sense. To put so many features into your console that the fans don't want and remove so much, and then just say, hey, if you don't like it, buy our previous console. I don't know what they were expecting to happen, to be honest. Microsoft, well, they got complacent after the 360, which, I mean, complacency seems to be a pretty big issue in the console market. But yeah, Microsoft got complacent after the 360 and, well, they never actually really learnt with the one, unlike Sony and with Nintendo. Microsoft, yeah, after the one, you know, the one, it made a bit of a comeback, you know, it sold just around 50 million units, I think, and that's not that bad considering how bad of a start the Xbox One had. I mean, it did a lot better than the Wii U, so at least it can say that for itself. However, it wasn't looking any better from here. As in the next generation, we've got the Series S and X. What the hell is Microsoft doing at this point? The Series S and X, the modern current Xbox, at one point, I remember in 2024, they had less sales than the GameCube. Like, it was just sad. These consoles are really, really sad, and this is where Microsoft and Xbox are just dying at this point. Microsoft really doesn't have any exclusive games. Actually, I don't think they have a single exclusive game. I know all the jokes about, you know, PS5 and Sony and, oh, the PS5 has no games, and while, yeah, that's definitely true to a certain extent, is so much worse on Xbox. And it's not even worse to the point that, oh, Xbox doesn't have any games. All of their exclusives have been ported to other consoles. Xbox exclusives are just being removed from being exclusive to Xbox. They're being added to, well, PS5 and some of them even to the Switch. Microsoft, yeah, they're completely selling out all their games and, well, they're basically killing their console because of this. It's pretty much a case of, why would you buy an Xbox Series X or S at this point when you can just buy a PS5 or really at this point just buy a PC? There's really no reason to buy an Xbox in modern day, and well, to be honest, I don't see Microsoft making another console after the current ones, or even if they do make one after the current ones, I think it's gonna flop. They really have nothing left here unless they start making a bunch of new exclusives, which it's difficult to make a brand new IP and have it be successful. I really highly doubt they're going to continue with their consoles, or even if they do, their consoles are even going to be successful. Microsoft is a sad tale. They really are a modern Sega in some sense, to be honest. They got overly complacent. Their consoles, there was no exclusives people cared about. And, well, eventually they just kind of faded into obscurity. At the very least, Microsoft, they'll still exist, you know, they've always got their PC market, and something that I've advocated before, and I think would be not the worst idea, is for Xbox to lean away from consoles and go more into making budget but really good gaming PCs. I mean, they're already backed by Microsoft, so they already have Windows and all that behind them, so it's not an impossibility. But realistically, I don't think that Microsoft is going to be bouncing back anytime soon from the hole they are slowly digging Xbox into. Xbox has been digging itself into a grave ever since the One, and it's really not managed to climb out. Ever. Microsoft, they got too greedy. I mean, they've got their Game Pass, and they just don't care about actually putting things on the Xbox. Xbox is way too overpriced to justify buying one. It has too little exclusives to justify buying one. So, yeah. Xbox is dead. So, final verdict? Yeah, pretty much what I just said. Xbox is dead. There isn't any reason to buy an Xbox in modern day, and, well, Microsoft nowadays is far more of a Greek tragedy than Sega ever was.
I miss the old Kanye, straight from the gold Kanye. Chop up the soul Kanye, set on his goals Kanye. I hate the new Kanye, the bad mood Kanye, the always rude Kanye, spaz in the news Kanye. I miss the sweet Kanye, chop up the beats Kanye. I gotta say, at that time I'd like to meet Kanye. See, I invented Kanye, it wasn't any Kanye. And now I look around and there's so many Kanyes. I used to love Kanye, I used to love Kanye. I even had the pink polo, I thought I was Kanye. What if Kanye made a song about Kanye? Call I miss the old Kanye. Man, that be so Kanye. That's all it was, Kanye. We still love Kanye. And I love you like Kanye loves Kanye.